Welcome to the 2019-2020 school year. Kicked off this morning by Athens Varsity Cheer and Marching Band.
We're back to school!
5 years ago, we set off on a journey to benchmark ourselves against the best in our country and the world. It was an ambitious goal that began with a simple ask.
I'm going to ask you to take a risk this year. I'm going to ask you to be creative and try something new.
This new area as a learner with your students. So you don't need to take on the role as the lecturer and the one who knows everything. It's more about being willing to learn and being a collaborator in the classroom.
Kids plan everything. Our teaching is kind of based off where the kids are guiding us.
Get to have a voice in the world, and there are going to be people all over the world listening.
In the future, they've seen that process of identifying problems, looking for solutions, and then creating some things that actually can make a change and a difference in our world.
I believe we can do this. I believe that because I've seen you dare to fail. I've seen you succeed at unprecedented levels. I believe we can do this because in One Troy, we can do anything.
Please welcome to the stage your superintendent, Dr. Rich Macheski.
To a new school year. It's going to be the best school year ever. Just know it. There's a few special people in the audience I want to take a moment to thank. First, Adam and Kaja for our band and for our cheerleaders. We appreciate you sharing. We've got a couple of special guests in the audience today. Expected and in the audience are Senator Mallory McMorrow, State Senator Mallory McMorrow, as well as State Representative Padma Cooper. We appreciate that. We appreciate their commitment to public education, in particular here in Troy and Clawson where they serve. Thank you very much. I also want to thank a very important group of individuals that are here with us, our Board of Education. Board President Carl Schmidt, Board Vice President Dr. Nancy Philippart, Secretary Gary Hoff. We have our trustees with us, Dr. Nancy Wilson, Nicole Wilson, Steve Gottlieb, and Paula Fleming. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for being advocates for our students and working tirelessly on their behalf. And I often joke that I have a face for radio. Thomas Butcher has a voice for radio. That was Thomas on the voiceover. And so Thomas, thank you very much. So, we're going to talk a little bit about change today, and the change that we as an organization have not just begun, but will continue to see over time. For just a moment, will all of you that are new to the school district or new to your position over the last 5 years, would you please stand? New to your position or new to the school district in the last 5 years, please stand. Thank you. It's amazing as you look around you and you see the change that our organization has undergone. And we are going to continue to change at a rapid rate. Thank you all for being a part of the Troy School District. And, I had my own bit of change, if you will. In my family this past spring, my wife and I and our family welcomed our first granddaughter, Amelia Ann. She's, of course, cute, right? As a grandparent, you have no choice but to say that they're cute, but she's really a darling. And I had a special opportunity this summer to spend a great amount of time with her and see her grow. She's actually just over 4 months now. She's really a spectacular young lady. And she will be in the Troy School District 1 year, guaranteed, soon. So, in the spirit of change, we changed our program up a little bit this year. And we've got something very special for you. In the past, we have brought experts to this stage. We have brought individuals from around the world to talk to you about things like cultures of thinking, to talk to you about technology integration, to talk to you about innovation and creativity, and they certainly challenged our thinking. These are preeminent experts in their fields, and they challenged our thinking as educators, and you all rose to that challenge. I've seen in your classrooms your willingness to fail, your willingness to take risks. I've seen you change your practice. All because you have embraced the idea of prioritizing adult learning across our organization. And I thank you for that. I thank you for taking that risk, of being a part of our ongoing learning as an organization. We have so much, of course, to learn from experts, but we have so much more to learn from those around us. Several years ago, probably about 4 years ago, one of you in the audience, and I don't know who it was, wish I could remember, asked, how will we know when we are world class? It's a great question, right? And I'm certain I stumbled around on that answer a little bit, but ultimately I landed on, we'll know we're world class when others come to see what we are doing differently. This past year, colleagues from across the county, from across the state, came to every one of our buildings, and in some cases, some buildings more than once, to see what you are doing differently. They wanted to learn with us. They challenged our thinking. They helped us build our capacity as learners and leaders. That's how we grow. But the easiest thing for me to do right now, and quite frankly I thought about this, was just simply to scroll all of the things that we have accomplished as a team here in One Troy over the course of the last 5 years. We could have scrolled hundreds and hundreds of bulleted items of things that we as an organization should be very proud of. Blue ribbon schools, state, national and state schools of character, unprecedented levels of achievement. No matter what poll you might want to take a look at or what survey you want to take a look at, schools in Troy are amongst the tops. That would be the real easy thing to do. And quite frankly, I could have done something I've always really wanted to do is just do a mic drop and walk out. and you know what? You all would have deserved that. But the fact of the matter is, we have so much more to do if we're going to live into our mission of ensuring learning for all members of the school community. The Gallup organization conducts a poll of students in grades 5 through 12 across the United States. And they recently ran a poll of over 900,000 students. What they found is 75% of fifth graders report that they are actively engaged in school, while 45% of eighth graders report that same level of engagement. And by grade 11, that number falls to 32%. 32%. And this was a survey of over 900,000. Now, I don't know what that number is here in the Troy School District. I suppose we could do our own survey. I'm not 100% sure what that is. The most important thing in that survey, though, really beyond kind of those startling numbers, is that of the students surveyed, those students that identified themselves as engaged were 2.5 times more likely to say that they got good or excellent grades. but they were 4.5 times more likely to say that they have hope for their future. Engaged students say they have, by 4.5 times more likely to say that they have hope for their future. What that study tells me, more than anything, is that our focus on empowering students, engaging students to own their learning, coupled with making strong adult relationships, attending to the social, emotional, and physical well-being, it's not just critical to our vision of world class, but it's absolutely the right work. And quite frankly, it's vital to the success of our mission if we expect that all students, not just some, but all students are a part of our learning community. We've got to find a way to engage all students. So, that said, I went to this past Saturday, I went to an event called the Troy Talks at the Troy Library. It's put on by students, actually, student representatives for the Teen Advisory Board at the Troy Library. And they asked me to come as a keynote speaker, and so I prepared some words, and I went. There were about between 12 and 15 students that spoke. And I got to tell you, if you want to feel inadequate, you need to go to an event where students from Troy are speaking about things that they're passionate about. Nomophobia, the fear of not having a cell phone. I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently that's a thing. And I got to read these. Girls in STEAM. We've got a group in the Troy School District, young ladies who go to other school districts and talk to young girls about the importance of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Genome sequencing. Students passionate about genome sequencing. We have a young man in the Troy School District that has edited Wikipedia. He has over 100,000 edits in Wikipedia. Hey, say what you want about Wikipedia, but 100,000 edits. Amazing. And it goes on and on, talking about integrity, talking about oncology research. It goes on and on. But as I thought about that, I thought to myself, how do those students get so passionate about what they're doing? How are they where they're at? And it's because, the answer's simple, it's because of all of you. Because those students, all Troy School District students, at some point in time have been in many of your classrooms. You've touched them in some meaningful way. You've engaged them. You've excited them. You've sparked some level of interest. And they're off and running. You see, each day in our classrooms, every day in our classrooms, we control opportunities that allow students to engage in their learning. We control those opportunities for students to engage in their learning. We control instructional practices on a daily basis that allow students to think critically, to be creative, to be collaborative, to communicate, to think about citizenship, to think about character, all of those 6 C's. You, on a daily basis, have control over opportunities for students. And folks, we didn't need an expert to come here today and talk to us about engagement. Well, we could have found the foremost person in the United States or the world to come here and be on this stage and talk about engagement. We didn't need that because the answer is right here in this room. We all know what it means to unlock excitement for students. But if we are going to dig in and live into our mission for all, and if all is going to mean all, how do we get at those students? That 2/3 of students that by the time they're in 11th grade that at least report that they're not engaged. It happens in our classrooms. It happens on a daily basis. And again, we didn't need experts here to tell us that. the fact of the matter is we have experts right here in the school district, and that's what today's program is really all about. It's about bringing experts who are here in and amongst us in front of us to share their stories, because stories are so important. They tell so much more about who we are as educators, as leaders, as people. So, how did today come about? It's a funny little, maybe not so much funny, but a little story about how today came about. Last fall, I got a call, I think it was late last fall, I got a call from Tony Lucci, and Tony said, hey, you want to go to lunch? He said, I got an idea. Well, when Tony calls and says he's got an idea, it can only mean trouble for me. But the fact of the matter is, he had a great idea. And in fact, his idea was something that we had already been thinking about. We just hadn't fleshed it out yet. How do we find a way? How do we find a way to get teachers, students on this stage to talk to us about their experiences? How do we find a way to create an event around them so they can talk to us about what it means to engage? What does it mean to be engaged in our classrooms? So we were off and running at that point. And working with Teaching and Learning, we put together this program today for you. Again, it's a little bit different, but I think you're really going to enjoy what we have in store for you today. You know, the fact of the matter is that the individuals that are on stage today are not experts. They're here because they're passionate. They're here because they have a story to tell. They're proof that we all have the ability and power to change lives and help students find their passion if we're just willing to give them an opportunity. So that said, our first group today let me back up one second. Then we have students. That's an important part of this. I don't want to forget our students. Our students also will be on our stage today talking to us about what it means from their perspective to be engaged in our classrooms. They are living proof that if we live into our 4 pillars of world class, we can make a difference for every student across our school district. So that said, I would like to bring out former Costello students, members of Mr. McKinney, excuse me, Mr. McKinney's 5th grade class. Welcome to the stage.
From kindergarten through 5th grade. And I want to tell you that our time at Costello was special because of what we became in our classrooms thanks to all the teachers do.
for all learners in Troy. How can we become this kind of thinker while we're in your classrooms? Now, the unofficial definition of deep learning. Meaningful learning that sticks, not stinks, sticks. But what does that even mean? When you remember something for an hour, for a week, for the test, for the big test? No, we need some serious adhesive stickage, people. We need that stuff to stick for life, like a Sharpie on a whiteboard. Not like a Post-it note, more like duct tape.
So what we're about to tell you is just that. Real examples of meaningful learning that stuck with us in Mr. McKinney's 4th and 5th grade classes. We didn't just learn math, we learned how math is a part of computer coding with variables. I was a part of a team of students that gave a TED Talk in front of our superintendent, our director of technology, and the Board of Education. We told them about how we, as 5th graders, became not only mathematicians, but developers who created our own apps to solve real-world problems. Then we invited AP computer science students from Athens to give us feedback on our prototypes. Now, I'd call that deep learning.
We didn't just learn social studies from reading a history textbook, we relived the past through project-based learning. If I had only read about Juliet and Marquette, I probably would have forgotten about them within a day. But I became them, people. I built the boat that they took on their junior discovery. Yes, it was made out of cardboard, but I built it. We Skyped with a docent at the Thomas Jefferson Museum in Monticello to learn from an expert and found out why people still thought there are dinosaurs living in lands west of the Mississippi before Lewis and Clark's expedition. We learned about the Oregon Trail from an actual wagon master in Wyoming, then included that information in a research project, which then became the script for a movie we created in Minecraft. We sent that video to students in several states and Canada to teach others like experts and help them learn what we knew about the westward expansion.
We didn't just learn about high-quality writing. We published our own school newspaper, and one of our classmates' article actually got published online and into the Oakland Press.
That was me.
Yes, but that's not all our newspaper accomplished. Our excitement for getting our writing read by the entire school sparked a question for our class. How can we make an even bigger impact on the world through our learning? This led us to seek out some more expert advice. We invited Carrie Birmingham into our classroom to share what she knew about journalism, which turned out to be quite a lot. She even brought her Emmy Awards with her. We Skyped with experts from around the world, like Yana Moreau in Brazil, a real-life environmentalist and children's book author. We hung out with the Dr. Jane Goodall from England and a real-life meteorologist from the Weather Channel in Georgia.
Our writing was good, but we wanted to get it even better. If we were going to teach the world, we needed more expert input. We reached out to Rebecca Hersher, a reporter for NPR Science Desk. We wanted her input on podcasting since she had won Peabody and Pulitzer Prizes for her radio productions. We decided to create our own podcast to reach a global audience, and the 5th grade Futurist podcast was born.
We produced 12 episodes on issue ranging from stopping pollution to abolishing animal acts in circuses. Our show was downloaded almost 600 times across the US, Canada, Australia, India, Malaysia, and Hungary. So you see, deep learning is about more than doing one big fancy project. It's about looking for opportunities to go deeper with whatever you're doing.
And deep learning is not just another fad or buzzword, it's life-changing. In the musical Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton found that he could use his learning to write his way out and improve his own life. In our schools, every learner should be allowed to connect their learning to their own lives in a deep and meaningful way, to create something that can change the world.
I'll draw my way out.
I'll photograph my way out.
I'll compose my way out.
And I'll write my way out, just like Hamilton.
So, our challenge to you is to be the one for your student, whoever they are, whatever grade they're in, who inspires them to see themselves as tomorrow's movers and shakers, a global change maker.
Don't throw away your shot at deep learning and a world-class education. Help them see themselves as people who emerge from Troy with unprecedented power and a future they can shape however they want.
Kids today
them to lean into the struggle when it gets tough.
Deep learning is meaningful learning that sticks with kids long after they've left your classrooms, like duct tape.
Reach out to experts and let your students learn from them.
Then let them be the ones to teach others like experts.
Don't just create lessons, take a risk this year and create deep learning experiences for your students. Now that you know about it, we need you to care about it.
And now that you care about it, we need you to do something about it. Have a great year, Troy, and thank you very much.
But how do we create an environment where students become the experts? What do we gain when we become shared learners? Please welcome to the stage Baker Middle School Social Studies teacher, Brian Fonstock.
Good morning. I want you to think about when you first became a teacher. Think about walking into your classroom for the first time, getting ready for that first class you were going to teach. It's a pretty amazing moment. For some of you, that's happening right now. For some of you, that moment was over 40 years ago. I have some very vivid memories of setting up my first classroom. I was hired as a third grade teacher at Morse Elementary School. Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, 2 years. Give me 2 years, and I'll have this whole teaching thing down. I will have all my copies made, my files will be set, everything will be laminated, right? In with the bell, out with the bell. Well, here I am 15 years later, still trying to figure this whole teaching thing out. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to make the transition from teaching elementary school to teaching middle school. And that first year teaching middle school, I learned a ton. It was kind of a whirlwind. And I learned curriculum, new curriculum, learned the rhythm of middle school, learning how to teach middle school kids. And I did a lot of other people's lessons, I did a lot of book work, and I muscled through. But that summer before my second year of teaching, it really dawned on me that I need to make this classroom my own. And we're very, very fortunate that we work in a district that encourages us to try different things, to be innovative, that we have permission to fail. So that's what I decided to do, and I tried lots of different things. When I first started teaching, one of my teaching partners said that you really have to sell history to the students. I didn't quite get what he meant by that right off the bat, but it didn't take long for me to figure out that 8th grade students don't bust into the door with a great vigor and enthusiasm to learn about American history. But how do you sell that to students? I was sitting in a staff meeting one day and we were talking about Blue Pillar. And it kind of dawned on me, that idea of connecting students to their learning. So once again though, how do you connect something that happened over 200 years ago with these very egocentric teenagers? So I tried something. We were about to teach Revolutionary War, about to learn about it, and I had the students write a procedure of what they do in the morning to get ready for school or to get ready for any social event. And they came up with lists of what you would expect, right? Taking a shower, brushing your teeth, eating breakfast, combing hair. And then with a partner, we were using the workshop model in the classroom. I had them say, okay, let's find out if you were alive in colonial times, what your procedure would be like. Would it be the same? Would it be different? And got a few moans and groans, but begrudgingly they started getting into it and looking up for information. And as I was monitoring the class, it took about 10 minutes before I started hearing little pockets of questions. So we stopped and said, all right, guys, I want you to write down 3 things that you wonder right now. Anything that you wonder about what we're learning about. And then we shared. One of the students asked the question that changed the course of our learning for the rest of the week. Mr. Fonstock, did they have toilet paper back then? Right? Now, immediately I had 30 sets of eyes staring at me, waiting for an answer. And I said, I think the best thing I could have said, I don't know if they had toilet paper back then. Why don't you and your partner, see if you can find the answer to that question? And immediately, 30 sets of eyes went from me down to their iPads to look for this information. Now, spoiler alert, they did not have toilet paper back then. But you can imagine some of the amazing things that we found out. One of those things were that they used corn cobs. Yeah, let that sink in for a second, right? Okay, corn cobs. History just got real very quickly for these kids and myself. Now you can imagine the discussion, the thinking, the questions that came about that day. It was awesome. It's gross, but it was awesome. Now this led to other questions. Did they have soap? Did they have toothpaste? Did they have deodorant? One student found out that for brushing your teeth, they used a damp cloth and some salt, and he said he was going to do that for a week. And he lasted 2 days, which was still pretty impressive. So one of the students asked the question, how do they keep their food cold? Well, that led us to our exploration the next day. We shifted to technology. We listed what's the top technology of today, and then we started researching what was the top technology back then. They did little mini research projects. And it was really great thinking. It was good discussion. We wrapped things up after a couple days by really, how would your life be different? How would it be the same if you were living in colonial times? And the kids said some pretty sweet things. One kid said, I think it would be pretty stinky to live back then. Everything would smell horrible, right? Good thinking. But then we had another student argue and say, well, I disagree with you. For us, it would be stinky and horrible. But for them, that was normal. If we grew up like that, that would be very normal to us. That was really good thinking too. Another student said, well, I would not want to live during that time. I want to live during the time we live in now. This is the best. I said, how many people agree? And pretty much everyone raised their hand, myself included. But we did some more thinking. We said, do you think the people in colonial times would have said the same thing? They were living at the apex of technology for them. They didn't know anything else that was coming later. What would they say? What would they be happy about? They have ships that can travel all over the world. They have a printing press, which gives them access to information. They have a life expectancy of 42. They're doing pretty good, they're thinking, right? And the kids got it a little bit. And we went the other way. We went forward. I said, think about, 200 years into the future. What are those 8th grade American history kids going to say about us? Are they going to think that our time was the best? Probably not. We don't know what's going to be in the future. What are they going to say is funny about us? They're going to say, oh my gosh, they had to drive their own cars, and their cars didn't even fly. And everybody walked around with these weird little boxes and made funny faces, into them all the time. It was weird. Why would you want to live then? Several things came out of that activity. One, the students were much more willing to learn about the issues that these people were facing because they had somewhat of a connection with them now. The students had a much better understanding of their place in time. We use a timeline in the classroom. It's very important. And the second thing was for me. I really got to examine this learning experience that we had in the classroom and see, okay, what was really working there? Because we were definitely onto something. And it was neat that I realized it was kind of a culmination of lots of things I've learned throughout my entire career. We had inquiry in there. Student inquiry, guided inquiry. We had research. I did learn that we need help on research skills, but that's coming this year. We had thinking. We have two signs over our door in our classroom. One says, what do you think? And one says, what makes you say that? We learn at the beginning of the year implicitly what it means to think. What are the different ways to think? Making connections, making observations, looking at things through a different point of view. We learn how to have discussions and disagreements with each other. Disagreeing respectfully, using evidence and reasoning, supporting claims. It was all in there. And then that final piece of connecting learning to students kind of brought it all together. Now, by no means am I saying I have this whole teaching thing figured out, because I don't think I ever will, but I do feel like as a district we're definitely on the right track. So I'm going to leave you with a video today. For our final project of the year, students create a soundtrack to American history. It's really fun. They connect some of their learning and thinking about historical events that we've covered to songs of their choosing based on title and lyrics and meaning and whatnot. So it's a great way to finish the year. So, ladies and gentlemen, make your classroom your own this year. Try new things. Pay attention to what works. Have an awesome year. Thank you.
fast forward. Stop. You can do that too if it's actually played. You guys get it? No. You guys watch it? Hold on. You get it? The room is going to get it. I got it! No, I didn't. I didn't get it! Alright, you're DJ right now.
Empowering students can transform learning, but can it transform lives? Can allowing students to find their voices and their passions truly have an impact on the world around us? Please welcome to the stage Troy High student Molly Myers, nominated to speak today by teacher Harriet Clark.
It was April of 2017, on a drive between the states of Georgia and South Carolina, when I discovered that becoming a TED speaker was surprisingly palpable. Sitting in the backseat of our rental car on spring break, I was about to do something I had never done before. Apply to be a leader in a network of over 3,500 TED Ed clubs that have formed in over 120 countries around the world. I love TED Talks. I love watching them. I love listening to them. I love everything about the world of technology, entertainment, and design. But I had noticed that there aren't that many people under the age of 18 that give these world-renowned speeches. This seemed logical at the time because I believed these talks took way more talent and resources and knowledge than I possess. But I knew that couldn't be the case. And as I became more and more interested in hearing from the high school students around me, bubbling with creative ideas, it seemed like someone should come up with a way to teach the students at Troy High, myself included, to write these talks. I kept waiting for someone to do that, and then came this thought back in the spring of 2017, a thought that's gotten a lot of people into a lot of trouble. The thought that, well, I could be that someone. So that's what I did. Now, if we fast forward to August of 2019, when exploring ideas for my talk at this conference, I realized that my experiences with TED and where they have taken me is a talk within itself. And now, this talk, my third TED-style talk, is the story of TED Ed Troy High. After I was struck with the thought of creating a place where high school students could write short TED-style talks, I created an account on TED Ed's website and began exploring this whole clubs thing. The club concept is surprisingly simple. Students work together to discuss and celebrate creative ideas. The entire concept behind TED, according to their website, is a nonprofit devoted to spreading ideas, usually in the form of short, powerful talks. TED's Club initiative creates a space where high school-age students can get together to simply discuss, collaborate, and expand upon their ideas. This club is something Troy High needs, I thought to myself. This is something Troy High should already have. The global network of over 250,000 teachers is something our world desperately needs. And this has been created by TED Ed. And I thought Troy High needs to be connected to this global network of technology, entertainment, and design. And after exploring more of the TED Ed website, I drafted an email to Mrs. Clark. Knowing that she has been teaching both speech and debate, as well as advising the award-winning forensics team for many years, in my mind, made her the perfect person to assist in this endeavor. And I was right. Throughout this entire process, Mrs. Clark has been diligent and patient and has done amazing things to pilot this project. She and I jumped through countless hurdles to not only be licensed by TED through submitting an application, writing short answer responses to various questions, and even participating in a worldwide video conference with other prospective leaders everywhere from Alabama to as far as Spain. And finally, to convince our own administration that TED Ed Troy High is something our educational community needs. Our correspondence occurred during the summer of 2017 after I boldly proclaimed to myself that I would be the one to launch Troy High's own chapter of TED Ed. 2 summers ago, this club was just an abstract thought, an idea worth spreading. Sending that email during spring break of my freshman year was a long shot, but it turned into something extraordinary. A group of people who meet bi-weekly after school in Mrs. Clark's room to share their ideas worth spreading. And that was and still is our goal, to create a space in which students could create their own versions of these world-renowned speeches. Since then, Mrs. Clark and I have organized 2 what I personally deem wildly successful TED Ed events in which club members have shared their stories. But more importantly, we've learned about topics as serious as third culture kids and racial injustice. Yet we've been entertained by a talk about the value of 3 minutes. TED Ed has not only educated its member clubs across oceans, it has fostered educational curiosity in our community. I, as acting club president, have watched my peers exude a special kind of excitement when discussing what they would be researching for this year's talk. Our club embodies the self-governing learning that we so often lose hold of in pursuit of gold stars. This educational curiosity has led me around the world, not just when I heard about Rita's exotic elementary school lunches from her 2019 talk, but when I traveled to Austria and Switzerland this past summer to attend a global leadership summit. This particular event happened to be sponsored by the same organization this talk is centered around. Upon arrival at the conference center, I knew I would fight my way into TED Ed's educational sessions. How could I possibly go to their conference as a club president and not? In that educational session, I met a woman who called herself the curator of TED Ed. I recognized her voice, but thought my mind was playing tricks on me. I was in a room full of TED Ed fanatics from all over the world. After a valuable session, I introduced myself to her and found out she is the same curator who interviewed Mrs. Clark and me in the fall of 2017. From southeastern Michigan to Switzerland, our TED Ed experience had truly come full circle. It wasn't from TED session, however, that I learned my most valuable lesson of this Global Leadership Summit. It was from featured speaker Severin Cullis-Suzuki. A Canadian environmental activist, Severin entertained our room by discussing her story. She emphasized that while life is full of monumental achievements, her best stories are from backyard barbecues or run-ins with her neighbors. For me, Cullis-Suzuki connected the dots from Troy, our somewhat mid-sized city, to the global phenomenon that is TED Ed. We, the students of this educational community, have our own monumental achievements, no doubt, but we also have some severely untapped material. Our stories. Not everything has to be a whole big thing. I believe we are often too wrapped up in first place banners to recognize that sometimes the most important lessons we're going to learn are fairly insignificant moments. So often enthusiastic students come to Mrs. Clark and me explaining that they want to join TED Ed, but they just don't have something to talk about. Everyone has something to talk about. I mean, think about how much you've already talked today. Maybe you got coffee this morning, or maybe you said goodbye to your dog, or maybe it was your fish, but all of those interactions have some lessons to be learned somewhere deep down. For me, TED is a great big thing. I'm beyond proud of what we've accomplished, from being on Fox 2 News to being TED's Global Club of the Month, but I'm probably more proud of how I've watched my peers tell their stories. Some were great big things, and some were little things, but the scale of the story isn't what made it great. It was great because of what we all learned. Rita taught us that all she wanted in 2nd grade was a ham sandwich for lunch. And Kevin taught us that time cannot be wasted when you're walking your dog. And these are the lessons I'll remember, the ones that drive me to continue our curiosity as Troy High's TED Ed Club. Thank you.
Helping students find their voices can also transform the way they interact with one another. But can it change the culture of a classroom?
Be aware of you, right? So do you think that you guys are becoming more aware?
Peer-to-peer in the general education classroom really started with one target student who had autism. And over time, we were able to learn about him and about his awesome qualities, and that, wow, we were pretty similar to him. And over time, we became a closer-knit family. And we do it through peer-to-peer. It's where the peers help peers. Friends basically helping friends. Every student has weaknesses and every student has strengths. And together we can help each other grow.
It helps to develop a community of kindness and respect. It's wonderful to see our links developing empathy and responsibility as they practice helping their partners and their friends. It's a culture that permeates across classrooms, and kids are learning that they can help each other and they can also lean on someone else when they need help as well.
We weren't friends much, and we weren't really good at discussing things, but when we got to peer-to-peer, it helped me a lot because I got to know more about her and what she struggled with and how we had things in common and what our differences were, and it helped a lot.
We have a board in our classroom, it's called the Yay Me board, and they're able to say, wow, I actually really need help with this. And so they ask a friend to help them, they organize a plan, they even share thank you notes and say thanks and really are able to grow through it.
It really helps you with your skills with other people, cause you want to get better with other people because when you have a job, you work with other people, so you need to get used to working with other people.
Peer-to-peer is the vehicle that I have found that hits every child of every ability, of every skill level, every time. A kid gets a smile because they now can do something they couldn't, that I can't always get them to do, but a peer can. I think that's the reason to do it.
Change does not come without risk. But what do you need to take that first step? And where can it lead you? Oh, the places you'll go. Please welcome to the stage, Leonard Elementary School teacher, Lisa Carruthers.
Everyone has a story. Some people choose to share their story, while other people maybe don't, and that's okay. 7 years ago, my why shifted to focus on one student affected by autism. And today, we're going to name him Joey. Come along with me back in the springtime of a school year, a hot, sunny spring day. Yes, after lunch. Yes, we wanted to be out at recess rather than doing a writer's workshop. However, I have to share with you 29 students, yes, 29 students, were all actually writing, filling up their pages. Classical music floating through the air. Too good to be true, right? Yeah, I thought so. And then I heard a moan that turned into a painful scream. And I was like, oh boy. So I moved my way over to the student who was at the stapler. As I walked over, I said the word link. And as I was removing a staple out of the student's thumb, 2 students had appeared at my side. And I said, please go with Joey to the office and make sure he's okay. And in less than a minute, and I'm not joking, anyone who knows me knows I don't joke. In less than a minute, a crisis was averted that could have derailed our writing time, but it didn't. I turned back to the class, and guess what? They were still writing. They might have peeked, I'm sure. They might have paused for a minute, but then they went right back. And within minutes, those few kids that left came back. and began writing. I was like, whew, peer-to-peer is the vehicle. Peer-to-peer was the culture that we had built. And we didn't start building it right away. I thought I knew, right? So, I want to talk to you about how 7 years of this practice has basically boiled down to one thing: vulnerability. Uh-oh, there's that word. Well, I have to tell you, Brené Brown is the vulnerability guru, and I'm not claiming to be her, but she says that vulnerability is, and I'll let you read. That's pretty scary, right? But the cool thing is, she also says that vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. And you all know what we have to do is we have to be vulnerable. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about how we started that in the classroom. We just looked at ourselves first, and we said, what do we do really well? And what are we not doing so well? And that's not a bad thing, because what we considered that weakness, we considered them not yets. We're not yet there, but we will be there. And so with this mentality, we were able to move mountains, not just because we were working on ourselves, but because we knew what everyone else around us was also working on. That's powerful. And so this message is too important to ignore. I'd like you to take a minute and step into your own lives and think about all the roles that you play. That might take a while, right? We have a long list. I'd like you to think about all of the events in your life, the good, the bad, and the beautiful. At the heart of every single one of those things is vulnerability. And so vulnerability basically is putting yourself out there. You're shifting paradigms. When you shift your thinking, you shift your actions. Think about that. When you shift what you see, you shift how you act. And so with vulnerability comes authenticity. You have purpose. You're now more purposeful in what you do and what you say and how you act. It's kind of a lot of work, isn't it? But it's worth it. And so what I want to do is make sure that you understand that in this classroom setting, the paradigm shifted, but so did the power. I gave my power, at least some of it, a lot of it, to them, my students, my families. And I didn't come up with all this. They helped drive where we went. And actually, it was way better than I could have ever come up with on my own. So, you see that card shaking, sorry. I want you to think about us as the Troy School District. And I want you to think about this word vulnerability and authenticity. It takes every single one of us in all the roles that we have here in this district to make this place great. It's not one person, and it's not one group of people. So I'm gonna say it again, because I think it's worth it. Every single one of us makes this place great. And we need to know that in our hearts. Okay, so if you have a true sense of self, you're authentically moving forward in your life. The best word I feel like in education is you own your education, but guess what? You're empowered. You're empowered to make change, okay? So are we worth it? Give me some thumbs up, people. Yes, we are worth it. Thank you. We're not just the only ones that benefit. We do it because of our students. I know you. You're like me. We do what we do for them. But we do have to stop and give a check on ourselves every once in a while and check in with where we're at. So, one last story. Go back to the fall of that same year. So you know how it ended. Now you got to see how it started. Students often, I think of as pop cans, right? Throughout the day, they might get shaken a little bit, might get shaken a little more, and I know, and I'm not doing a demonstration for you today, you know it will explode, right? So Joey would oftentimes be that pop bottle throughout the day. And I thought I was doing my best, but through the culture I learned this very valuable thing. And when he got home, his parents had a lot of pieces to pick up. And it was their night. That's what they got to do. And so I got to thinking, if there's one student you're reading my mind. There are many that are having the same story. And so the peer-to-peer culture really engulfed everything that we do. It infiltrated everything that we did. And the beautiful thing about it wasn't just one student that benefited, it was all of the students. Every single one of them had an opportunity to emotionally download their events from the day before they got to go home. And those families got their nights back. Breathe with me there. Whew, that's some work, and it's really good work. And it sounds very maybe difficult to some, but it takes one little thing each day and building those relationships and opening up that conversation. So, the students noticed the impact, and so did their parents. Life, nothing will change for you unless you want to change it, unless you act on changing it. It won't come to you. We teach this to our kids all the time, but we have to remember that for ourselves. Peer-to-peer culture. Put yourself out there. Take a risk. Be true to yourself. And I want you to think about, how might that influence you, your life, your class, the district, the community, and the world? Oh, the places you will go. Thank you.
If we give them the opportunity, our students will go further than we ever dreamed possible. Where will their journey take them? Please welcome to the stage Troy High School student Drew Merlider, nominated to speak today by teacher Harriet Clark.
Hello, everyone. I can't tell you how excited I am to be standing in front of all of you. I want to thank the administrators, teachers, and staff for having me here today. In about a week, I will be a senior at Troy High School. I know, I made it. This will be my 15th year in the Troy School District, from preschool to high school. In the spirit of today's subject, I want to share my journey through public speaking and the doors that it has opened for me. Speaking in front of this audience is a mixed bag. On one hand, it's definitely a wonderful opportunity that I would not miss for the world. But on the other, all my English teachers are here, and I'm certain that they'll be correcting my grammar. To help give you a better understanding of my public speaking journey, let's go back to the very beginning. Mrs. Jaju's third grade class. We had all written poems and were reciting them to the parents. Here's a brief snippet of my poem to give you an idea of what we're dealing with. It's snowing wherever I'm going. I think it will snow wherever I go. When I find something good, I put on my hood, 'cause it's snowing wherever I'm going. So, as you can clearly see, I was on track to be the next Shakespeare. No, I'm kidding. That was pretty bad, even as third grade poems go. But the one thing I did get complimented on was my voice and presence when I recited the poem. My parents, who just a second ago were trying to be as supportive as they could of my outstanding poem, were beaming with pride when people came up to us and complimented my performance. So, in true Indian parent fashion, they took this as a signal to sign me up for yet another class. This time it was a theater class. But after a while, I realized that it really wasn't for me. The lights were too bright, the makeup was irritating, and to be honest, my acting chops were not going to carry me to Hollywood stardom. But the one thing I did love was being on stage in front of a large audience. Sure, it was nerve-wracking, but the adrenaline rush was surreal. That is when I began to suspect that my talent lay not with theater, but rather public speaking. I was given an opportunity to test my theory at the end of my 6th grade year. The administrators and teachers at Waddles invited me back to speak at 5th grade graduation to give the soon-to-be middle schoolers an idea of what the middle school experience was all about. Well, I must have drawn the short straw or something, because I was given the extremely exciting topic of homework. But mixing humor with facts, I was able to deliver a good speech that informed as well as entertained. The feeling I got while standing up at that podium was phenomenal. That speech served as the green light on my public speaking career. From then on, I never refused an opportunity to speak, regardless of the venue or time, be it in class or on a stage. I used whatever platform I was given to put forth a message I believed in. Whether I was emceeing events in the community or delivering school announcements live in 8th grade, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. My journey, however, really took off when I reached high school. The first club I joined was robotics. Partly due to my love and experience with public speaking, instead of joining the programming subgroup like most of my friends, I chose to join the marketing one, and I have never regretted that decision. Over the past 3 years, I used my passion for public speaking to be the MC at the competitions our team hosted, teach younger kids, and even conduct seminars at the World Championship. But I cannot talk about the impact of public speaking on my high school club choices without dedicating some time to forensics. For those who don't know, forensics is a public speaking club, and as we like to say, not about dead people. I joined the original oratory category, where I had to write and deliver a 10-minute persuasive speech on an issue of my choice. Over the past 3 years, I tackled the topics of juvenile crime being a cry for help, the problem with the boys will be boys mentality, and the power of words. My first year was very intimidating, as most of the other kids were upperclassmen with more years of experience than me. While I didn't do too terribly, there was clearly a lot of work to be done. Although the first competition is in February, the process truly begins in September, if not over the summer. I learned that writing the quote-unquote perfect speech takes a lot of patience and dedication. Many late nights editing my speech and 6:30 a.m. meetings with my coach became a regular part of my day. Then comes practicing delivery, which is a process in and of itself. Who would have guessed that speakers would say a phrase like, "Today I would like to talk about the power of words," 50 times just to get the right impact on every single word. And no, the irony was not lost on me. Incorporating judges' feedback after the competitions is a challenge as well. Finding that balance between the feedback given by the judges and my vision for the speech was definitely an elusive one. Over the next year, however, I continued to practice and give it my all, and all the hard work paid off in the end when I placed 3rd in the state of Michigan last year. Public speaking shaped my learning last month when I was on a trip to Europe for EF Tour's Global Leadership Summit. I was nominated by my wonderful forensics coach, Mrs. Clark, for my work in the club. The trip was already outside of my comfort zone, as I was the only guy traveling with 20 girls. And it was my first trip abroad without my parents. I'm an only child. At the summit, my background in public speaking enabled me to speak my mind and put forth my ideas. My experiences allowed me to be open to new ideas, feedback, and going back to the drawing board when an idea became unfeasible. Just being on the trip was a valuable and incredible opportunity. But then I learned that I could use my passion for public speaking to take my learning even further. After a rigorous application and interview process, I was selected out of hundreds of applicants to introduce Emmy-nominated journalist and keynote speaker Ann Curry on stage in front of about 2,000 people. It was an experience that was humbling and an ego booster at the same time. But as was pointed out to me by my coach, I'd worked for many years and countless hours for a moment like this. A moment to use my passion to spread a message. And this time, unbelievable as it may be, it was on a global stage in Davos, Switzerland. The hard work was worth it. The adrenaline rush on that stage in Davos was even better than what I felt reciting my 3rd grade poem about snow. I am lucky to have had a wonderful public speaking journey, but it has definitely not been a one-man mission. My parents, of course, were integral to supporting and inspiring me. But apart from them, there are a lot of people in this very audience that played vital roles behind the scenes. Behind every speech, every play, every performance were countless people who worked for hours to ensure that I could be the best that I could be. As staff at one of the best public school districts in the country, you have the amazing ability to connect and inspire so many young people every day. So, on behalf of myself and the entire TSD student body, I would like to thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and here's to another great year. Thank you.
Empowering students doesn't start on a world stage. It starts in each of our classrooms. And it can begin with a simple question. What will you ask your students today? Please welcome to the stage Leonard Elementary School teacher Katie Starn and her students.
The past few years, we've been treated to keynote speakers like George Couros and his innovator's mindset, to Don Rosengard and his amazing art. This year, when I opened the email from Jennifer Gottlieb and read that they were looking for teachers to be keynote speakers, I thought, wow, times must be tough in the TSD. Then I learned the true meaning and the intention behind today. And I was excited to hear what you had to say. My peers, the best of the best, the local experts. But never in a million years did I ever intend to be up on this stage, because I thought, what do I possibly have to offer these people? They are truly incredible. What could they learn from me? Who am I? So my name is Katie Starn, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Leonard Elementary. This is my 15th year of teaching. And last year was probably the most profound year of my teaching experience at Leonard Elementary, of all of my career. And that sounds insane, but it's true. You see, when I joined this amazing team at Troy Schools 4 years ago, Dr. Macheski handed me a business card. And the business card invited me to take a risk and even to fail. I had never, in all my years of teaching, been encouraged to fail. And I thought the guy was nuts. I was starting my career over, not a young chicken, and I was not gonna fail. But it's pretty ironic, because as humans, we fail every single day. But it's those of us who learn from our failures and move on that are the most successful in life. I tell my students that we fail in life more than we ever succeed. But it's those who take it, learn from it, and build themselves that are the most successful. There's a well-known philosopher, and mighty handsome, Denzel Washington once said, "Nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Fall forward. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success." So as I became more comfortable in my new home in Troy schools, I realized that Dr. Macheski was right. Offering me a safe place to fail and to create was exactly what I needed. I decided I was ready to take the risk, even if that meant failing. I planned to start really small, and if I failed, it was okay, because I was just going to fail behind my door at room 11. Once I decided I was ready to take the risk, I thought my students probably would be too. So I asked my students a question. I asked my students, what can you do to make the world a better place?
Our journeys never start big. Never do we skip steps. Only grow from seed to sprout, never from seed to ancient tree. It all began at Leonard Elementary when Miss Stern asked us, how can we make the world a better place?
This one question encouraged me to think outside the box. I was encouraged to think in a way that was different and problem solving with my peers. I felt empowered to take on new challenges.
We had no idea where this would go, if anywhere, but as we began to research, we learned that we had much more to learn, and that made us hungry for more.
Composting used to be some random word. I didn't even know what it meant. But now, I feel like it's a part of me, a part of us. This journey has changed me entirely and made me care about our Earth more than I ever had before. I learned that if you stay focused and keep your head in the game, you can do anything you put your mind to. We reached out to our community and asked for their help. We collected cans to help purchase for our first worm farms. Worms were donated and our research continued.
Miss Miranda from the Stage Nature Center came to help us learn how to vermicompost. She was our true mentor text. With our additional money, we designed and purchased our one-of-a-kind composting t-shirts. We then applied for and received the TFEE grant. This grant allowed us to branch out and expand our composting education to the rest of the world. We assembled our composting bins in class and had to work together as Leonard Leopards to teach the rest of the school. Once again, we had to think outside the box because there were no leaves or grass to compost in the winter. We learned that we could start with hay and sticks. We began small, like with everything on this journey, and with teamwork, we got it done.
Our jobs included collecting compost after lunch and filling our outdoor bins. With the little funds we had left, we found an amazing man to hand carve a sign for our bins. He created a masterpiece that represents all of our hard work. Even though the school year ended, our journey didn't cease. It came full circle when we donated our rich composted soil to an amazing organization called Keep Growing Detroit. We went from wondering to doing, all because our teacher asked us one simple question. And we know now, more than ever, that composting counts!
If I learned one thing from this journey, it was that I could ask my students one question. And this question could lead to a world I didn't even know existed in education. You see, this project wasn't about composting at all. The composting was a vehicle that transported our risk through a year-long journey of inquiry learning. I put myself out there, and my students did too. And our failures turned into incredible learning opportunities. The successes that these students have already experienced will undoubtedly lead to future success, because not only do they know that they can make a difference, they already have. So teachers, what questions will you ask this year?
Empowering students doesn't have to mean massive projects or completely changing what we do in the classroom. How can we all have an impact in our own way, in our own classrooms, every day? Please welcome to the stage Athens science teacher Eric Bergzazi.
Wow, okay. Can I just say before I even start here how difficult it is to follow that? I was watching them back there, and yesterday we had a dress rehearsal for this, and one of them gave me the best pep talk ever. and I don't know what was funnier, the fact that I got a pep talk from somebody like a third of my age, or the fact that she was actually really good at it. So, like the big voice from above said, my name is Eric Bergzazi, and I teach Chemistry 1, Physics 1, and Organic Chemistry here at Athens High School. And I am incredibly excited, and let's just be honest, wildly terrified to be up here today. And I'm really humbled that I get to share this stage with such an amazing group of teachers and students. The work that they have done is tremendous, and it makes me very, very proud to teach here in Troy. It really does. So with that being said, I just want to start by saying that I do not view myself as an amazing or remarkable teacher at all. I kind of approach every morning the same way. I come into my classroom with a lot of optimism and almost a lethal dose of coffee, let's be real. Especially at 6 in the morning, I'm just like Big B's crazy, Tim Hortons all the time. And I just try to do the best I can for my students. They're incredibly important to me, and that's kind of why I chose these pictures to be behind me today while I do my little spiel. Unlike a lot of my colleagues who have presented today, and perhaps many of you, I don't do a lot of large-scale projects in my classroom. Projects that take months or even entire school years to do. And it's not that I'm uninterested in that. It's just that when you teach high school, it's tough, right? Because we only have a 50-minute block with our kids. And during that time, we have to convey content, we have to prepare them for college and career, we have to get them to a 5 on the AP test if we're teaching AP classes, and we have to support them socially and emotionally, which if you have not been in a high school recently, that could be its own like day. Just drama. The tea that they have spilled is just unbelievable. So it's tough, right, to do all these projects and big things. But the thing that I always tell myself is that the blue pillar does not equal giant projects. The blue pillar tells us that it is our job to provide our students with deep, meaningful, and authentic learning opportunities of all shapes and sizes. Personally, some of my best activities in my own classroom only take an hour. Whether that's having students learn about acids and bases by watching milk of magnesia swirl around a beaker, or watching my physics kids see a hoverboard go down the hallway and asking them to plot its motion. Even my organic chemistry kids who are seniors get to make slime and have a lot of fun until they learn that they're also going to learn condensation, polymerization, and then the fun kind of stops. But these moments are incredibly important. And yeah, they're never going to be a world-class Wednesday email. And I'm kind of okay with that. It's just what it is, right? Yes, okay. But that doesn't mean that they're not amazing learning opportunities that are probably going on all over the place. I'm incredibly lucky to teach here at Athens. Last year alone, I saw people in my department doing amazing things. People like Mike Vollmeyer, whose Physics 2 students made wind turbines. People like Brandon Preblick, whose astronomy kids wrote children's books for little kids to read. Rachel Peterson's GBBE students hatched chickens to learn about embryology. And our 9th grade biology students used 3D printed horse teeth to actually get evidence to prove evolution happens. And that's just one tiny part of one department in one building of this huge district. So I know that even though I don't see a lot of what goes on, great things are always happening. We're getting kids excited to come to school again, and not just because we're going to obviously be in all of their TikToks as well, but that's a whole different thing. I have been in many. It's not as fun as it looks. So anyway, this year I'm really excited because I get to be a mentor teacher for the first time. I'm hoping that I don't screw him up too bad. And it's like pancakes, the first one never comes out. It's fine. So I'm just gonna try. So with that in mind, I wanted to offer everybody here 2 very concrete pieces of advice today. 2 pieces of advice that you can take or leave, but I'm hoping you're gonna take them with you today because they're very important to me. First and foremost, when you go back to your buildings, find a team of people who can support you and help you grow as a leader and a teacher. Because I will tell you this, I would not be half of the teacher I am today without the Athens Science Department to support me, period, end of story. And by extension, Athens and this whole community as a whole. Without their teamwork, we couldn't do half of the amazing things we do. So I encourage you, when you go back to your buildings, to find a grade level team or a content area team or just an awesome group of people who you like talking to, and use that as a way to get better as teachers. They make me a better teacher and a better person every single day, and for that I'm super thankful. And secondly, try something new this year. It doesn't have to be anything giant. You don't have to take your kids to Troy Beaumont Hospital and build a new wing onto their building. You don't have to do it. Although that could be fun, I don't know, maybe somewhere. Someone just came up with a great idea, I can feel it. Try something new. It doesn't matter how weird or crazy or likely to fail it'll be. Just try something new and amazing. I'll be very candid. A few weeks ago, I got called into the services building with my good friend Michelle Dodson, who teaches chemistry with me. And we got called in to talk to the Troy City Fire Department about a possible collaboration between us and Chem One. And I turned to her as we walked in the building and I said, Bestie, because that's what I do. And I said, Bestie, I'm gonna embarrass you in a speech in front of the entire district. You're gonna have to be okay with that. And also, what are we going to do with the Troy City Fire Department? Are they gonna come in and tell our kids stop, drop, and roll? Like, what's gonna happen? These are high school kids, right? And I will tell you, we got into that meeting and those guys wanted to work with us. They came with ideas and awesome things. And right now, all we have is a list of just random stuff. We don't know who it's going to involve, where it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to tie to content. We know basically nothing at this point. But I'm excited to try something new, no matter how big or small it is. So it's going to be a cool year, and who knows, maybe in 5 years I'll be up here again saying that that thing was going to be the thing that launches me into awesomeness. I don't know. But it's possible. I don't know. So with that in mind, I want to wish all of you an amazing school year. We're going to have a fun afternoon of PD. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. You were all thinking it. You were all thinking it. And with that, I got fired. So anyway, with that in mind, I want to wish you all an amazing school year. Please go back to your classrooms with ridiculous optimism, way too much caffeine, and let's change some lives. Thank you. Everything I wanted to say.
Thanks, Eric. Did I not tell you that if you surround yourselves with students and these amazing educators from the Troy School District, you will feel inadequate in some manner? That's how I feel just sitting, listening. Not inadequate, but to Eric's point, really just excited for the school year to come. The enthusiasm that our students and our staff bring, I know, to our classrooms on a daily basis. Today started, one takeaway for me, because I'm not going to ruin the messages. One takeaway. A great idea can start with an invitation to lunch. It's as simple as that. listen, take a risk. It doesn't have to be about something big. It can be something really small. Because everything small has an opportunity to grow to something large. We're going to challenge our teaching and learning team this year to grow this conversation today. And think about whenever we have colleagues together in professional learning that we find a way to embed job-embedded professional learning. We want to find a way to continue to bring our learners, you, shoulder to shoulder, to continue to grow and learn from one another. So that's the challenge for our teaching and learning department this year. 5 years ago, we kind of chucked a stone into the water, and it created a huge ripple. That ripple continues today in your classrooms. I encourage you to take a stone on the 27th when we welcome kids back, or the 28th, or whatever day it is, when you're ready, and chuck that stone. When you're ready. Not at the kids. Chuck the stone in that water. Create your own ripple. Because at the end of the day, you, each and every one of you, no matter what you do in our school district, are the key to unlocking powerful opportunities for our students. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you to our parents for bringing out the kids that presented here today. Thanks to all of these marvelous presenters. Just fabulous presenters. And finally, I just want to welcome you back to another school year. Welcome back to One Troy. And remember, the best is yet to come. Thank you and have a great day.